Part 170. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1702. Wake Entertainment City officially opened 2 years later. In fact, it has not been fully built, but the main building has been decorated and can be put into use, and the 2 auxiliary buildings will continue to be developed in stages. On the first day of business, the Entertainment City held a big reception, and invited media reporters from all over Xinjiang City to create momentum, and it was very lively. After the ribbon cutting, it was singing and dancing. The first dance, of course, belonged to Huo Chenghong. He walked into the dance floor with the little goldfish and danced a waltz, and then other guests walked onto the dance floor and danced together. Holding a glass of wine, Wei Yuran stood not far away, quietly looking at the figure in the crowd. Huang Ming came over, touched his arm lightly, and whispered, "The little goldfish is dancing." There was surprise in his tone. "Yes," Wei Yuran said indifferently, "she is dancing." In the past 2 years, they occasionally met at similar banquets, greeted like old friends, and then parted like strangers. He silently followed every change in her. She learned the piano, learned to sing, learned a foreign language, and became more and more good at dressing and makeup. She couldn't wear high heels before, and couldn't even take a few more steps on the road, but now she can wear high heels and dance lightly like a butterfly. She has changed. She is no longer that little goldfish who puts him first and listens to his arrangements in everything. She has become a very attractive woman, a woman who belongs to Huo Chenghong. Huo Chenghong treated her really well, cultivated her with all his heart, and cared for her with all his heart. Wei Yuran realized that he was jealous. This emotion made him feel ugly. He loathes himself. After a dance was over, little goldfish returned to his seat to rest, while Huo Chenghong greeted several distinguished guests. Wei Yuran noticed that she stood up and walked in one direction, but that was not the direction of the bathroom. He thought for a while and followed silently. The little goldfish walked out of the venue all the way, turned a few times, and went to a place with few people, which was very abnormal. Wei Yuran couldn't help frowning, hesitating whether to inform her bodyguards. If she ran around like this, if she was in danger, the bodyguards might not be able to react in time, and his ability to rescue her was very limited. At this time, the little goldfish in front suddenly stopped. She leaned against the wall and squatted down, took off her high heels, and covered her ankles with her hands, as if she was suffering. Wei Yuran realized something, walked over quickly and asked her, "Did you hurt your foot?" The little goldfish looked up at him, not surprised, but with a shallow smile, looking polite and alienated. "No. I'm fine, go get busy, don't worry about me." Wei Yuran lowered his head to look carefully, but found no obvious wounds, but his ankle was red, and a few tiny scales shone brightly. He pursed his lips and asked her in a low voice, "You hurt your foot, Mr. Huo will definitely call a doctor. When the doctor examines you, how are you going to explain these scales?" The little goldfish sighed softly, "These are new growths. I scrape them myself, but they can't be cleaned." After all, the scales grew on his body, so he couldn't do anything cruel, and it was very painful. Wei Yuran stretched out his hand and touched it lightly. She flinched, turned her face away in embarrassment, and didn't look at him. "You shouldn't dance bravely." Wei Yuran took off a pocket knife from the keychain. "Be patient." The little goldfish bit his lower lip, and was about to meet the familiar pain, but he stopped, said, "Wait for me," turned and left. When he came back after a while, he had an extra glass of wine in his hand. "Drink it," he said. "When you get drunk, it won't hurt." She must have looked at the glass of wine, inexplicably wanting to cry. "But it still hurts when I wake up," she murmured, took the glass of wine, and drank it obediently. "Don't save articles, the finale will be tomorrow, there is nothing to save, let's see, let's see." Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1703. Wei Yuran helped Xiao Jinyu clean up the scales on her body, and then helped her go to the room to rest. There are hotel rooms above the 8th floor of the entertainment city. He picked a room, hugged the little goldfish to the bed, and called her bodyguard through the room phone. He waited until someone came to take care of her before leaving the room. Their relationship with the outside world is righteous brothers and sisters, so they are not afraid of any scandals. The fish scales in the palm of the hand are soft and cool, the surface seems to be shiny, without a trace of peculiar smell. He stared at it for a moment, then took one piece and put it in his mouth. Like a snowflake, the cold touch immediately melted into liquid, moistening his throat. Life is very bitter, and he doesn't covet the so-called immortality, but this feeling is very strange. When he thinks of a part of her body entering his body, it seems that the two are still inextricably linked. Wei Yuran sighed inwardly, put away the remaining fish scales, and went downstairs to continue socializing. The opening banquet is not over yet, so he cannot be absent. After drinking and drinking, there will be singing and dancing performances and magic shows. Guests who don't want to watch the show can go to the casino to play a few games. If you like quiet, there are also separate VIP rooms. Wei Yuran entertained in the banquet hall below for a while, and felt strange not seeing Huangming for a long time. Where did you go to hide away again? Wei Yuran waved and called a subordinate to tell him, go to the auction house and look for manager Huang. If you see him, tell him that I have something to look for. The man left in response. Wei Yuran thought about it and went to the casino by himself. Huangming occasionally goes to the casino to find excitement. Back then those fish scales were melted into water in the glass bottle, and later the little goldfish was given to Huangming, and now the few scales in his hand are simply put together with the original ones for easy storage. There are many guests in the casino. The manager in charge saw Wei Yuran coming, and rushed forward to say hello. Wei Yuran asked, did you see Huangming? No, the other party shook his head, I haven't seen manager Huang here today. Wei Yuran frowned. On the first day of opening, manpower was needed everywhere. Could it be that Huangming ran home and slept soundly? Wouldn't kill myself like this. Yuran, someone behind him suddenly called his name. Wei Yuran turned around and recognized that the other party was a real estate owner in Xinjiang City. He was of the same generation as his father and had a good relationship with him. He could be regarded as Wei Yuran's uncle. This kind of relationship can be close or far away, there is no need to offend, and there is no need to be too warm. Wei Yuran smiled lightly and exchanged greetings with the other party. You are also here to join us, there are many guests today, so please forgive me for the poor reception. Before he finished speaking, he saw a person coming out from behind the other party, and his voice stopped. It's Du Jiajin. It turns out, this person is here as a peacemaker. I know that the two of you had quarrels before, but in the final analysis, you are cousins after all, so what can't be solved? And, Jiajin has not had an easy time in the past 2 years, and he already knows that he made a mistake. As the uncle said, he patted Du Jiajin on the shoulder. Du Jiajin knelt on his knees with a pale face. Many people around looked over, either curious, or probing, with different expressions, and some people who knew the inside story lowered their voices and chattered eagerly. In the past, I was blind and conceited. Cousin Wei has a lot of people. Please hold your hand high and let me go. Du Jiajin knelt down in front of Wei Yuran. Wei Yuran could clearly hear the muffled sound of his forehead hitting the floor. He looked at the man under his feet with no expression on his face, and there was no ripple in his heart. He knew why Du Jiajin knelt down to him. There will always be people who make trouble in this world. After he gained power, Du Jiajin was naturally ostracized and neglected by everyone. In business, there is no way to fight alone. Therefore, Even if Wei Yuan never dealt with Du Jiajin himself, someone else did it for him, and took credit for it, just to make the business into the entertainment city. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1704. Wei Yuan looked at Du Jiajin, who was kneeling on the ground. And the people around were looking at him, wanting to know how Wei Yuan would react to Du Jiajin's repentance. Wei Yuan said indifferently, "Kowtow, do you want to even out all the previous things?" The kneeling man froze, his back tensed. Seeing this, the negotiating uncle persuaded again, "Oh, it's better to settle the enemy than to end it. After all, you two are cousins. Why do you have to make it to the point of life and death? Jiajin did something wrong in the past, and now he kneeling in front of you. I came here with sincerity. As long as I can calm you down, let me deal with it, and the previous things will be wiped out. From now on, everyone will still be good brothers." The subordinates around Wei Yuan immediately choked out, "Who dares to be a brother to this kind of person? Breaking off other people's legs, cutting off other people's fingers, and now just wanting to kowtow to write off the past is too beautiful." The uncle couldn't hold back the smile on his face. He looked at Wei Yuan. "Yuan, you are following Master Huo now, you have to take a long-term view and open your mind." Wei Yuan raised his eyes, glanced at him lightly, with a cold smile on the corner of his mouth. "I see." He chose this day to apologize because he thought that he would be concerned about Master Huo's face, so as not to embarrass Du Jiajin too much. After all, it would be unlucky if the entertainment city opened on the first day and it was bloody. What uncle said is that following Lord Huo, one should be cautious in words and deeds. Wei Yuan smiled. However, what Master Huo hates the most is people who can't settle their accounts. He lowered his eyes and looked at Du Jiajin, who was on the ground. As long as the accounts are settled, the previous grievances can naturally be written off. Du Jiajin knelt on the ground without making a sound. After a while, a dagger was thrown in front of Du Jiajin, and the onlookers took a deep breath. "Breaking a leg is too troublesome, I don't want too many. Back then you had someone chop off 3 of my fingers, so give me back 3 now," Wei Yuan said. The uncle's face changed slightly when he heard the words, and he wanted to persuade him again, but was interrupted by Wei Yuan. "If you are not sincere, please go back. Today is the first day of opening of the entertainment city. If anyone comes here to make a fuss, it would be too disrespectful. What do you think?" The other party shut his mouth with an ugly face and stopped talking. Everyone looked at Du Jiajin on the ground. Wei Yuan bent down slightly, and said to him in a gentle tone, "If you don't want to, go back and rest, young master Du." Du Jiajin began to tremble all over. As if extremely annoyed, or extremely resentful, his whole face was extremely red, and his breathing was almost panting. Under the eyes of everyone, Du Jiajin picked up the dagger on the ground. "Master Du is a clever ghost. When we found someone to teach Brother Wei, he chopped off his right hand. Now he wants to pay the debt with his left hand. Ha! The difference between the right hand and the left hand is very big." Wei Yuan's people sneered at Du Jiajin. Du Jiajin gritted his teeth fiercely, and changed the hand holding the knife to the other. There was no one in the crowd to help, and everyone was staring at Du Jiajin, wanting to see if he would really chop off his fingers. The palm was pressed against the ground, the 5 fingers were slightly separated, and the sharp blade was hanging above, trembling slightly, but it did not fall for a long time. A few drops of sweat fell on the floor. In the air-conditioned room, Du Jiajin was sweating profusely. Wei Yuan looked at him quietly. Some people had waited for a long time to see him drop the knife, and they began to discuss in a strange way. "Oh, is this person cowardly? I guess I'm scared out of my wits. It's usually so sloppy, so it turns out that it's a no-brainer. He's still chopping his fingers, I don't think he dares to cut even a layer of skin. Ha 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 ha. Undisguised ridicule, sarcasm, heckling, Du Jiajin's nerves were stimulated one after another, the veins on his forehead popped up, and his breathing became heavier and heavier. Finally, he collapsed completely, throwing the dagger in his hand violently. Wei Yuren. You bastard. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1705. The moment the dagger was thrown, Du Jiajin rushed towards Wei Yuren, and the next moment he was subdued by the bodyguards beside Wei Yuren. The uncle was so frightened by his actions that his face turned pale, and he shouted, Jiajin. Why are you crazy? Dare to fight on Wei Yuren's territory, don't want to live anymore. I really regret it. Why didn't someone beat you to death? Du Jiajin struggled angrily, his arms were firmly locked behind him by the bodyguards, his face was pressed against the ground, his eyes were terribly red. He shouted with a ferocious face, I spared your life with good intentions, but you treated me like this. Wei Yuren, you are a scum. It's not because of your kindness that you spared my life. Wei Yuren slowly squatted down and looked down at him, you just want to see me as if I'd rather die. Ha! Du Jiajin opened his mouth and smiled sinisterly, yeah, you look like you'd rather die, it's really interesting, lying on the bed and can't move, pissing and urinating, even wiping your butt you need someone to help you, can't you think of it? The most popular young master Wei, there are also times when people hate him. Ugh! The bodyguard kicked him hard. Du Jiajin curled up in pain, sweat dripping down his face. Wei Yuren looked at him expressionlessly. He has seen tough-talking people before, but it's rare to see people like Du Jiajin who are tough-talking and brave when they are about to die. God is not open, let you survive. Du Jiajin fell on the ground, panting, if it wasn't for you, Uxin would not have died, she really likes you, but how did you treat her? You made things difficult her. Teased her. You said that you want to date you must hold your breath for more than 2 minutes, otherwise the kiss will not be enjoyable. She took it seriously, and really went to practice holding her breath, you killed her. You killed Yuxin. You bastard. Bastard. Wei Yuren. You will be punished, Du Jiajin hissed and roared, struggling desperately with red eyes, almost crazy. Several bodyguards pressed him together. Someone in the crowd commented in a low voice, is this person crazy? I heard that there is something wrong with his company, his career has collapsed, and his revenge has not been avenged. Can you not be crazy? I think I'm pretending to be crazy. Wei Yuren looked at it coldly for a while, and then ordered, throw it out, don't affect other guests. Yes. Whether Du Jiajin is really crazy or pretending to be crazy, Wei Yuren doesn't care anymore, and he has no intention of pursuing or taking revenge. As for retribution, retribution has already come. The bodyguard threw Du Jiajin out of the entertainment city, and the uncle was also sent away. The spectators in the casino gradually dispersed, and everything returned to normal. A trusted subordinate around him asked him curiously, Brother Wei, whose family is that Uxin he mentioned just now? Wei Yuren shook his head with a wry smile, I don't know. I don't know, the subordinate complained, how dare he plant you? You should be beaten before you throw it out. No, Wei Yuren smiled lightly, I don't remember. The subordinates were stunned. Wei Yuren lit a cigarette for himself, and said calmly, I did too many stupid things when I was young, how can I remember everyone who suffers? The subordinate was stunned when he heard the words, and said with a smile, Brother Wei, you are not old, what are you talking about when you are young? Wei smiled and said nothing. Sometimes, whether a person is old or not has nothing to do with age. He looks handsome, and he was even more handsome when he was 17 or 18 years old. It is no exaggeration to call him a beautiful boy. Girls flock to him, no matter what his character is, as long as he is handsome, he can forgive anything. He is also a flirtatious dandy, his girlfriend changes every now and then, and sometimes he gets bored with his suitors, deliberately making inhuman demands, fooling the other party, and taking pleasure in it. He didn't have the slightest impression of the Yuxin Du Jiajin was talking about. He didn't know that a girl died because of him, and he didn't know that he would be hated and retaliated by Du Jiajin for this. Wei Yuran sighed inwardly. Has cause and effect in the world ever bypassed anyone? I'm so flustered, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish writing tonight. I'll continue writing. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1706. On the first day of opening, the entertainment city was booming, and Wei Yuran didn't go home until midnight. As soon as you enter the door, you can smell the smell of smoke in the house. Wei Yuran frowned, seeing Huang Ming sitting alone in the living room. The ashtray in front of him was full of cigarette ash and butts. Why hide at home and be lazy? Wei Yuran was annoyed and funny, walked over to take the cigarette out of his mouth, put it in the ashtray and pressed it out. Huang Ming's expression didn't look right, and he felt uneasy. Wei Yuran looked at him suspiciously for a while, sat down beside him, and asked, "What happened?" Huang Ming opened his mouth, but stopped talking. He looked around nervously, still uneasy, got up and closed the doors and windows tightly, locked them, and opened the old-fashioned record player in the living room. Melodious music fluttered out. Wei Yuran was confused by Huang Ming's series of actions. What are you doing? Are there spies at home? SHH. Huang Ming made a silent gesture, and his voice was extremely low. It's more terrifying than being a spy. What's the matter? Wei Yuran asked him with a frown. Huang Ming looked left and right again, making sure that none of the servants were there, and whispered to Wei Yuran, "Today, I overheard that someone wanted to assassinate Huo Chenghong." Wei Yuran gasped, and asked in surprise, "Is the news reliable?" Huang Ming nodded, "I heard it with my own ears. Master Huo is going to Jingzhou next week, and they will lie in ambush on the way to the pier. Can they kill if they want to assassinate? The people who are Mr. Huo have nothing to eat." Wei Yuran's tone was cold, with disdain. Even a trivial person like him can make an enemy like Du Jiajin, let alone a big person like Huo Chenghong? The assassination encountered throughout the year is only afraid of several times. Huang Ming sighed and said anxiously, "I don't know, I just heard that they have internal help, and it will definitely make things happen." Wei Yuran frowned tightly, and his expression became more and more serious. "Where did you hear that?" "Master Huo has spies around him. If this word gets out, I don't know how much trouble it will cause." "Who is the spies? What do they do? What is your name?" "Oh, I really don't know." Huang Ming was also anxious, and explained, "I was hiding in the cabinet in the warehouse of the auction house. It was pitch black, and I only heard the voices of two men. There were many code words when they spoke and the code name. How can I find out the name of the spy? If I can come back alive, it is already God's blessing." Wei Yuran frowned and asked, "What are you doing in the warehouse when you have nothing to do?" "Me?" Huang Ming stammered for a while, his eyes slightly dodged. I just looked around." With his appearance, he was obviously guilty of guilt. Wei Yuran scoffed angrily. He didn't need to think about it, he could guess that it was Huang Ming's stinky habit of stealing chickens and dogs again, and he wanted to take advantage of the excitement of the opening banquet and the lack of people in the warehouse, so he sneaked in and got something. In the warehouse of the auction house, there are all goods that are ready to be auctioned, and any one is worth a lot of money. However, since they made an appointment to meet in the warehouse of the auction house, it means that the spy is probably someone from our auction house. Wei Yuran thought about this matter carefully, but felt wrong. But people from the auction house, how could they be the first? Do you know the specific time and place of Master Huo's trip? Huang Ming hesitated for a moment, and tentatively asked, there are more than one spy. In this case, Huo Chenghong is in a very dangerous situation now. Wei Yuran got up immediately, took his coat and hurried out. Hey! Where are you going? Huang Ming caught up with him. Wei Yuran said, I'm going to the manor. No one can believe it now, I have to tell Lord Huo about this personally. Huang Ming's expression changed drastically, and he firmly grabbed Wei Yuran's arm. You can't tell him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1707. Why? Wei Yuran looked at Huang Ming in astonishment. Although Wei Yuran is not a good person, he is not a treacherous villain. If he does not tell Huo Chenghong, what is the difference between this and watching him die? Huang Ming pulled him back, and said with an embarrassed expression, think about it, who would dare to assassinate Huo Chenghong? He must be bold and ruthless. They also planted spies beside Huo Chenghong. If Huo Chenghong is safe and sound this time, can they not know that it was you who told the secret? Can they not retaliate against you? So, you can't say it? They may not know. Wei Yuran replied with a frown. Master Huo has to meet a lot of people every day, especially during this period of time. He has met many distinguished guests. Even if I inform them, they may not be able to guess it is me, and maybe before that, the identity of the spy had already been found out. Think about it again. Huang Ming felt that the risk was too great, and still disagreed. You have already taken back all the assets of the Wei family. Even if Huo Chenghong is dead now, the most you can do is leave the entertainment city and go back to be the head of the Wei family. Young master, you are unscathed, and you don't have to worry about being sought for revenge or assassinated. Why do you have to do things that are thankless? Wei Yuran kept his face sullen and remained silent. Huang Ming sighed heavily, and said again, I used to think that this man is very powerful, and it's good to live with him, but I didn't expect the risk to be so great. I think it's okay if he dies, just so we can pick up the little goldfish. Come back. You have always been desperate for the past 2 years, and you probably can't let go of her. Now the opportunity has come. Let's pretend we don't know about this matter. Whether it's life or death depends on his own fate. Wei Yuran thought he was wordy, so he threw off his sleeves and walked straight out of the door. Hello, Huang Ming shouted. Wei Yuran walked straight forward without looking back. Huang Ming's face became even uglier. He ran a few steps to catch up with Wei Yuran and stopped in front of him. Did you understand me? You don't care about the little goldfish. It's because of the little goldfish that Huo Chenghong can't die. Wei Yuran went to the car with a cold face, opened the door, got in, and started the car. Huang Ming grabbed the car window unwillingly. Why? Wei Yuran held the steering wheel tightly with both hands, took a deep breath, and replied in a low voice, because I am mud, and she is a fairy. A fairy should be with an open and honest person like Huo Chenghong, not a cowardly and incompetent loser like him, who is dazzled by profit, blackened, selfish and cold. Wei Yuran knows himself too well. Playboy, dude, prodigal son, mud that can't support the wall. Without Huo Chenghong, he would not be able to gain a foothold in Xinjiang. His current reputation, scenery, status, and family fortune were all given by Huo Chenghong. Wei Yuran clenched the steering wheel, ignored Huang Ming's persuasion, and galloped towards the manor. If the spy was someone close to Huo Chenghong, he would rashly ask to see the patriarch, which would definitely arouse the other party's vigilance, so Wei Yuran borrowed the name of Little Goldfish, and only said that he had something urgent to see Miss Jin. Xiao Jinyu lives with Huo Chenghong, telling her is equivalent to telling Huo Chenghong. Wei Yuran confessed everything he knew, and anxiously waited for the result in the study. After waiting for a long time, the little goldfish went back and forth, and gently closed the door of the study. Wei Yuran immediately stepped forward and asked her, "What did Master Huo say?" "Master Huo said he got it, and thanked you for making this trip tonight," the little goldfish said softly. "It's very late now, go back and rest early." Wei Yuran felt relieved, exhaled a foul breath, nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go back right away." "I'll take you out," little goldfish said. "No," he declined. "Yeah," the little goldfish said, "you came to see me in name, to play a show and do a full set, I should give it to you." Wei Yuran was slightly taken aback when he heard this. She used to be as simple as a blank sheet of paper, but now she knows how to act and play tricks, and she is also more alert. She has become a bit like Master Huo. I don't know what to say now. I guess there are still 2 chapters to finish, but I don't know if I'm right. Oh, it's so embarrassing." Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1708. Xiao Jinyu sent Wei Yuran to the door, and said to him, "Brother Ming has been sick for a day or 2, don't worry, I will go to persuade him tomorrow, you can go back and rest." Wei Yuran looked at her fixedly. The little goldfish pushed him lightly, and said again, "Go back." After a long time, Wei Yuran withdrew his gaze, gave a low hum, turned around and walked into the black night. The manor is far away from the urban area, and I drove back and forth, and it was already past 4 in the morning when I got home. The window in the living room was lit, and Wei Yuran knew that Huang Ming hadn't slept yet, so even if he was sleepy, he probably wouldn't be able to fall asleep. When he walked into the room, Huang Ming asked, "How did you say it?" Wei Yuran took off his coat, walked to the coffee table expressionlessly, and poured himself a glass of water first. "Tomorrow I will go to the auction house as usual. You pretend to be sick and stay at home. The little goldfish will come to see you and tell us the specific arrangements," he said. Huang Ming nodded. Now that the matter has come to this point, he has nothing to struggle with, and his expression is sullen, as if he is broken. Wei Yuran reminded him, "If someone calls to test you, just say that you had a fight with me, so you don't want to go to work recently. Remember that person's identity and name." Understood. Huang Ming curled his lips, got up and said, "I'm going back to bed." Wei Yuran nodded, sat alone in the living room and drank half a glass of water, and went through what happened today in his mind from beginning to end, then simply washed up and fell asleep. At 8 o'clock the next morning, he went to the auction house on time to inspect, followed by casinos, dance halls, KTV bars, and so on. This is only the first phase of Hwake Entertainment City. After the completion of the second and third phases and the addition of large shopping malls and star-rated restaurants with international cuisine, it will gradually become the largest entertainment venue in Wenzhou. Such a big piece of fat, it's hard for the smelling jackal not to miss it. Not to mention outsiders, only Huo Chenghong's brothers and uncles, none of them are good. It is not known whether this assassination was done by one person or a few people conspired together. Wei Yuran felt terrified when he thought of this. He was an only son, and his father was also an only son. No one in his family had ever experienced such quarrels between brothers. In the evening, Wei Yuran went home. The little goldfish is also there, and the dinner on the table is much richer than usual. Huang Ming opened a bottle of old wine. "When everyone is here, we can have dinner." Huang Ming told the servants to leave and turned on the music. There were only 3 of them in the restaurant. Huang Ming poured wine for the 2 of them, and filled his own glass with wine. "Little goldfish can't drink, just touch their mouths to make sense of it, I'll do it first." He raised his head and drank a glass, then put down the glass, quite melancholy, it was agreed at the beginning that there are blessings and hardships, but what is this called now? We haven't sworn vows with Huo Chenghong, why do we have to worry about him? Ugh. Huang Ming couldn't figure it out. In his opinion, nothing is more important than his own survival. When this kind of thing happened, he should hide as far away as possible. But Wei Yuran and Xiao Jinyu insisted on getting involved. The little goldfish looked at them and said with a smile, "There is an airport built in Jingzhou, and you can fly abroad. Mr. Huo is going to take me with you, and you may stay for a long time. When I arrive, I will send you gifts." Congratulations. Huang Ming held up his wine glass and said, "Under the whole world, the first fish to fly into the sky." The little goldfish laughed out loud. Wei Yuran asked, "Master Huo has made all the arrangements?" And she nodded, "The trip starts as planned. There are only 2 or 3 places on the way to the pier that are suitable for setting up ambushes. Master Huo's people will clean them up in advance, so don't worry." Wei Yuran was full of thoughts and didn't know what to say. After deliberating for a long time, he finally just raised his glass and said, "Bon voyage." "Thank you." The little goldfish smiled. "So far we have parted, and I don't know if we can meet again in this life. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1709. A week later. Wei Yuran got up early, put on a white shirt, black suit, and formally tied a tie, and after being neatly dressed, he appeared to have wide shoulders and narrow waist, extraordinarily handsome and suave. If a man dresses up carefully, he will also be pleasing to the eye. Huang Ming looked at him coldly from the side. "How can there be someone like you? Knowing that accidents are easy to happen today, you still insist on joining in the fun." Wei Yuran straightened the folds of his cuffs, and said calmly, "If there is no danger today, I have the right to send them off. If Master Huo's arrangement fails to catch all those people, I should go and see." After he finished speaking, he turned to look at Huang Ming. "Are you going?" "No." Huang Ming frowned. "Go by yourself." Wei Yuran didn't force him, straightened his neckline, and went out by himself. No matter which way you go to the pier, you will eventually converge on one road. Wei Yuran drove the car to the intersection, parked on the side of the road and waited quietly. Huo Chenghong's trip, time, route, location, and mode of transportation are all kept strictly confidential. If the assassin can get Huo Chenghong's travel plan, there must be internal support. So Wei Yuran was still worried. Even if Xiao Jinyu said that Huo Chenghong had already made arrangements, he would not be relieved if he did not see them leave Qingjiang safely with his own eyes. He arrived early, there was no one around, and occasionally vehicles drove by, but none of them were Huo Chenghong's men. At 8 or 9 o'clock, the shops along the street opened one after another, and the neighborhood gradually became lively, with more pedestrians and more passing vehicles. Wei Yuran sat in the car and waited patiently. From morning to night, he waited until evening. The sun was setting to the west, but he still didn't see Huo Chenghong's car or person. Wei Yuran couldn't help wondering, did Huo Chenghong change his mind and change the departure date? It is not impossible to play tricks and make false claims. In terms of scheming and strategy, he was far inferior to Huo Chenghong, and he didn't dare to guess Huo Chenghong's intentions. Since he couldn't wait for someone today, he might as well go back. However, I have been waiting for so long, so I might as well wait a little longer and leave after dinner. There are many restaurants on both sides of the road. Now that it is getting late, some roadside stalls have also been set up, all of which are open-air barbecues. Wei Yuran waited for a day, was already hungry, and was about to get out of the car to fill his stomach, when he accidentally saw Du Jiajin appearing in his field of vision. Du Jiajin was with a strange man. He was wearing a suit, a gold watch and a gold necklace. He looked sleek, and even the suit and leather shoes looked vulgar. Many private loan sharks are dressed like this. Du Jiajin seemed to be flattering the other party and wanted to invite the other party to dinner. It's hard to imagine how desperate Du Jiajin's situation must be to be so humble. Wei Yuran looked at it for a while, felt bored, and planned to change to another place for dinner. At this time, something flickered in the field of vision. Fleeting, very unreal. Wei Yuran looked suspiciously, and saw a few people sitting at the table next to Du Jiajin eating, which seemed normal, but made him a little concerned for no reason. Compared with the guests at other tables, this table seemed too quiet. Wei Yuran's gaze moved down a little bit, his expression suddenly tense. He saw the muzzle of the gun under the tablecloth. How could this be? The message from the little goldfish clearly stated that Huo Chenghong had made all preparations. All those who ambushed him should be dealt with. Why do these people show up? At this moment, Wei Yuran still feels lucky, maybe they are Huo Chenghong's people. But when Huo's convoy appeared at the intersection ahead, killing intent immediately appeared in those people's eyes, and Wei Yuran knew that something was wrong. These people want to shoot Huo Chenghong to death. The danger is imminent, how should he warn? Wei Yuran's breathing was all messed up, watching Huo Chenghong's car getting closer and closer, various thoughts flashed through his mind quickly. Huang Ming's words are not without reason. If he is strong enough to stop him, let alone saving people, he will be beaten into a sieve by these people first. Seeing that those people were about to raise their guns, he clenched the steering wheel, stepped on the accelerator, and slammed into the barbecue booth opposite. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1710. Boom. The car seemed to be out of control and ran across the road from across the road. A long row of charcoal grills was knocked down, and the glowing red charcoal was knocked into the air. Amidst the splash of carbon ash and sparks, there were screams one after another, and the tables and chairs that were closer were all toppled over. The killer at the table was also implicated, and several people fell down. They were startled by the sudden change, and before they could react, the shop owner had already yelled. Crap! How do you drive? Are you crazy? During the violent impact, Wei Yuran, who was driving, was stunned for a moment. When he regained his composure, he saw many people gathered around him, and one of them was a ferocious middle-aged man who was slamming on the car window. You, uncle. Come out, little bastard. Lose money. Wei Yuran opened the car door, took out a handful of banknotes from his wallet and threw them over. Is it enough? He took out another handful of bills and threw them in the boss's face. How about giving them all to you? Is it enough? I have plenty of money. He glanced around, saw Du Jiajin in the crowd, and smiled deliberately. Yo. Isn't this young master Du? You really have a leisurely heart. Didn't you say that you want to kill me? Didn't you say that I will be punished? Tisk tisk tisk, I think it's you who got retribution, right? Borrowing money everywhere, doesn't it look like a pug? Wei Yuran, Du Jiajin's face turned red, and his eyes blazed with anger. He was already harboring resentment, but at the moment when he was slightly provoked, he was completely enraged, and he rushed forward with a punch. Boom. This punch was so powerful that it hit the corner of Wei Yuran's mouth, making his teeth numb. Dare to hit me, Wei Yuran spit out a mouthful of bloody spittle like a stingy dandy, and fought with Du Jiajin viciously. People from nearby night market stalls all gathered to watch the excitement. During the scuffle, Wei Yuran deliberately pushed in the direction of the group of people. In this chaos, Huo Chenghong's car happened to pass by. A few cars accompanied the front and back for protection, and the car windows reflected the afterglow of the setting sun, making the figure in the car blurry. Wei Yuran wanted to look again, but when he was distracted, he was punched again. Those killers also realized that they had lost the best time, so they hurriedly pulled out their guns, and shot at the car regardless, trying to force Huo Chenghong to stop. With gunshots, the scene was in chaos, shouts, and collisions. There are people running away with their heads in their arms. Huo Chenghong's motorcade immediately accelerated and galloped forward. The killer also boarded a car parked by the side of the road and quickly chased after him. Wei Yuran was bumped and stumbled by the panicked crowd, and finally squeezed into his car, but the car hit once and couldn't start several times in a row. He turned his head to see that the chasing car was almost gone, anxious and annoyed. Trying to start the engine again, it finally ignited, turned back on the steering wheel hard, and stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The gunshots continued. He is flustered. After chasing for several streets and finally catching up, those snipers have already succeeded. How many people died, how many people lived? Huo Chenghong's subordinates drove to chase him alive, while the rest of the bodyguards stayed where they were, either looking for help or calling an ambulance. Wei Yuran got out of the car in a panic, staggered a few steps and ran over, his heart almost stopped. The bodyguard next to him seemed to want to say something to him, but he didn't care to listen, and opened the car door hard, and a man and a woman inside were covered in blood. Wei Yuran opened his eyes wide, staring at the tragic death of the man and woman. No. Not Huo Chenghong and Little Goldfish. The high-hanging heart slowly fell, little by little, and finally returned to its original place. It turned out, it was a cover. The real Huo Chenghong and Little Goldfish must have successfully boarded the boat. Wei Yuran let out a long breath, his nerves suddenly relaxed after extreme tension, and he was in a trance. Suddenly someone shouted, "Be careful!" What? Wei Yuran turned around, and there was a car heading straight towards him. Boom! Huge crash. He felt the pain of breaking his internal organs, maybe his bones were also broken. It didn't hurt too much, because the consciousness was gradually dissipating. He tried his best to raise his head and saw Du Jiajian's ferocious face in the car. There was joy and relief in those eyes, as if to say, finally, kill him. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1711. The car was driving smoothly on the road, and it was almost at the pier. Sitting in the car, Xiao Jinyu silently looked at the receding scenery outside the window. The gunshots in the distance had stopped. Huo Chenghong had always thought that there was no plan left, and the matter should be resolved properly. She didn't have to worry about anything, just thinking about leaving this place soon and not knowing when she would return, she was inevitably sad. Speaking of which, this is not her hometown. Her sadness was unreasonable. Huo Chenghong was sitting beside her, talking on the phone. This kind of mobile phone is a fashionable product that has just emerged recently, and rich people can afford it. He chatted for a few words, put down his mobile phone, and said to her, "Wei Yuran is here." The little goldfish was slightly taken aback. Knowing that it's dangerous, he still came, and he's showing his heart to you, Huo Chenghong said lightly. She pursed her lips and remained silent. The car was moving forward, and the destination was getting closer and closer. She could hear the wind outside the car window, and her heart seemed to be in the wind, wandering without support. After arriving at the pier, people sent luggage onto the ship one after another. She got out of the car and saw a cruise ship docked on the river. It was so big and so high. Standing under it, she felt that she was facing a huge monster that shrouded the sky, while she was extremely small. "Let's go." Huo Chenghong took her hand and led her on board. The long aisle connects the shore and the boat, and to her, it seems to connect the past and the future. Unknowingly, her steps became slower and slower, more and more hesitant. Huo Chenghong seemed to have noticed it, and looked down at her. "Master Huo." The little goldfish stopped and said hesitantly, I. Huo Chenghong looked at her quietly. The little goldfish bit its lower lip, unable to look directly at him for some reason. Huo Chenghong didn't urge her, he seemed to know her inner struggle, he just looked at her and waited quietly. After a long time, the little goldfish took a deep breath and pulled his hand from his warm palm. I want to stay, she murmured with red eyes. I like him very much, I like him very much. Huo Chenghong looked at her indifferently. The wind was very strong, and the hem of their clothes was flying, and her long hair quickly became messy. Against a pair of red eyes, she looked so innocent and so wronged. He sighed lowly and asked, have you thought about it? The little goldfish nodded. Huo Chenghong stretched out his hand, brushed her messy long hair behind her ears, stroked her cheek lightly, and said, go to him, one live's a lifetime, and it's not easy to meet someone you like very much. She bit her lip and walked ashore holding back her tears. After walking 2 steps, stopped, turned and looked at Huo Chenghong, Master Huo, do you like me? Huo Chenghong smiled slightly, well, I kind of like it. The little goldfish smiled, with gratitude in her smile. Without any further hesitation, she lifted her skirt, and sprinted towards the direction where the gunfire sounded. The man looked at her back, sighing with the wind. Wei Yuran woke up on a sunny afternoon. He looked around and found himself lying at home. The little goldfish was sleeping on one side with his arms around his waist, and Huang Ming was snoring lying on the recliner. Everything seems to have passed away, as if back in the past, when the 3 of them had just become sworn brothers, they were laughing and cursing every day, having a good time. What happened? He lowered his head, looked at himself in a daze, and touched again. The injuries on my body, where did they go? Are you awake? Little goldfish sat up and looked at him with bright eyes. Does your body still hurt? Wei Yuran stared at her blankly, completely confused. Didn't she leave with Huo Chenghong? Huang Ming over there was woken up and stretched himself. Seeing Wei Yuran awake, he didn't show much joy, and said calmly, just wake up, I'll ask the servant to cook a bowl of noodles for you. Want to eat noodles? Little goldfish hugged him happily. If you don't want to eat, you can eat other things. Wontons, dumplings, and glutinous rice balls are all good. Huang Ming, who had already walked to the door, said angrily, it's not the Lantern Festival. The little goldfish just hugged him and smiled. Wei Yuran looked at the 2 of them in a foggy state, always feeling that something was wrong.